intersection of good drinks, good music, and good times. This is Hops and Spirits Bar Conversations.
'Tis the season. Happy holidays, everyone. I think we're in for a fun episode once again, as we have the group that's better known as the American folk duo Chatham Rabbits, but their names are Sarah and Austin McCombie. Guys, welcome in.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you, Jonathan.
Yeah, welcome in. And also, not only are we talking about them, kind of getting to know who they are, they've got a brand new album, Be Real With Me, which is out this February. So you want to check that out. A couple songs are already on streaming platforms, so you don't want to miss those. But Sarah, Austin, since this is Bar Conversations, I'm just going to hop right in. You guys are down in North Carolina. I had to go in my stash and see what I could find from North Carolina. A little Bogue Sound Distillery's John A.P. Conoley whiskey. So that's I had to find a little North Carolina whiskey for y'all.
Nice. That's awesome. Yeah. North Carolina is home to a lot of very niche and boutique-y liquors. We've got Chemist Gin up in Asheville. I was just learning about actually a winery in Old Fort, North Carolina today, and now I know about winery a distillery on the Bogue Sound. That's awesome.
Yeah. You just never know. Now, I've got a little bourbon tonight. What's your guys' go-to drink these days? What are you drinking? Because I hear you like some cocktails and mocktails these days.
Yeah, awesome.
Well, normally what I like to drink is I make an incredible old-fashioned. My secret is instead of just plain simple syrup or sugar, I use fig syrup and just a little bit of it. But it's a fig old-fashioned, so it's got a little fig syrup, a good bourbon, just depending on what I'm in the mood for, and then some crude bitters. They're made in Raleigh, North Carolina, and the bitters are orange and fig bitters. And then I garnish it typically with a Luxardo cherry and a little bit of a orange peel. But I realized that I'm out of bourbon today, so I'm drinking whatever we had, which unfortunately was Prosecco that was not refrigerated and cranberry juice.
So he's having a little cranberry Bellini this evening.
It's pretty embarrassing.
No,
it's
it's
the opposite
okay.
of an old fashioned.
It's okay. And I'm having a pet nat that I got from Wine Authorities in Raleigh, North Carolina. I am normally like a pretty basic IPA girl. I love like hazy little thing, pernicious IPA, like that kind of stuff's normally what I like. But honestly, Austin and I have been on this journey of trying to renegotiate our relationship with alcohol and have more NA options around the house and just try to approach it differently. And so we just have less around now. We were actually looking for a bottle opener right before the call.
This is a real treat.
We were like, this is exciting.
Well, I'm glad I could help spice it up a little bit. But I mean, I love, I've had different, the kind of NA bourbons and whiskeys, which if you're making a cocktail, they're not half bad. I love a good athletic brewing beer these days. Kind of mix that in maybe at the end of the night. So, hey, nothing wrong with that at all.
That's right. Yeah, it's really nice. We have the Heineken Zeros. We've been keeping those in the fridge.
We have a job. We have one of the only jobs in the world where it's not just acceptable to drink, but encouraged to drink on the job. So, you
got to balance it.
Got to balance it.
Absolutely, and I love too because I think you guys do a good job trying to balance work and life and all that. And when you get to be at home, are you on a farm? Is that right? And you have a turkey that will always be enjoying the holidays and not part of the festivities. Is that correct too?
Unfortunately.
Yeah, so we live in the Piedmont of North Carolina, green rolling hills. It's so beautiful out here. And we live on the farm that has been in my dad's side of the family for almost 300 years. So we were able to buy that from my dad's side of the family about 2 years ago. And since then, we've brought our horses and cows out here, and we do have a 30-pound turkey named Cornbread, and he's just a pet. He is not afraid of anything, and he's like very overbearing, and that's why Austin is not his biggest fan.
Well, I love that though, and clearly, like you mentioned, you got the horses. I think if you follow y'all on social media, you can see Austin out hunting at times. What is it that y'all love about the outdoors and the various different things you can do outdoors?
Yeah, I mean, I personally, I think we have different answers for this, but I just really love being with the animals and like the sense of being present and only focusing on one thing when I'm with them, especially when you're horseback riding, which is probably my favorite thing to do. You have, like, from a safety standpoint, you have to be aware of all of your senses and you have to just be very in the moment in order to connect with your horse and to, have a safe ride for you and your horse. And I just think that like, it just, I don't know, it brings me to a zen space, a flow space where I think some people find that through running or through yoga or whatever.
Yeah.
Austin?
I mean, the outdoors are a huge part of my life. I would say it's where I get a lot of inspiration to write songs. During deer season, I only harvest like one deer a year, and it's what we eat almost the entire year at home. I just ate some today, so we almost never buy meat from any sort of grocery store or anything, which is cool. But really, like, I spend morning and night in the woods during deer season for just watching and enjoying being out there mostly, and it's just a way to disconnect. At the end of the day, that's what we love about it.
I was gonna say you got to have that balance and be able to like you said, you guys are doing a lot of stuff, making music, doing shows. Sometimes you got to make sure you check in on yourselves. And when it comes to that music side, though, did you all grow up in musical families? Where did your love of music come from? Like, was it always there, or did it come later on in life?
Well, I grew up not so much in a musical family, but in a family that really appreciated the arts and was very, like, my mom and my grandmother were very, very instrumental, no pun intended, in like pushing my brothers and I to go to a lot of performing arts things and just get us involved with festivals and just anything that was like free and being put on by the state of North Carolina or by our town or whatever we would go to. So I was just kind of around a lot of music and loved it. And my parents fostered that and let me play guitar and take piano lessons and encourage me to like play my own like self-titled songs at farmers markets and that sort of thing. But Austin actually has like old time music in his family, which is cool.
Yeah, my uncle David was my big inspiration. He actually passed away a few years ago now, far too young, but he was the first person to put a guitar in my hand and tell me that if he could play it, that surely I could play it, and taught me my first song. And it was cool because I think when it comes from your parents, it's maybe a little bit harder to really get into it. Your parents can only teach you so much, but my uncle David was a huge influence.
So then, what music did y'all grow up on then? Was it kind of, you guys are Americana-folk. Is that what you grew up on, or were there other inspirations along the way?
I think for my parents, like my earliest memory, I would say, of music would be John Denver and Thank God I'm a Country Boy and Grandma's Feather Bed and those songs. And my parents also listened to Doc Watson, Bob Dylan, the Beatles, Joan Baez, the Beach Boys. I remember singing like Kokomo with my brothers after like we would like brush our teeth and get ready for bed. Like that was what I was raised on at a very young age. But like any good millennial, like I was fully invested in My
Taylor
Chemical.
Swift.
Well, I'm a diehard Swiftie, but also like My Chemical Romance, Green Day. Oh my gosh, what is the Fall Out Boy? I mean, I loved all those bands as well. Austin, what?
Yeah, I would say a similar situation. Like, I mean, in roots music, essentially, is what it was. So we both, grew up with that as part of our repertoire of songs. And my Uncle David played a lot of blues and like a lot of classic rock kind of stuff. And so even though that's not the same as Americana, I think the heart behind it is very similar. It's roots music. So yeah, I'm glad that was around when I was a kid.
Well, and you both grew up, I believe, in North Carolina, right? So, what impact did growing up there have on y'all? Because the mountains, mountain music, like you said, roots music. Clearly, that's kind of what's there. But I mean, also you got some big cities there where different artists can come through and you can see different shows. So, what impact did growing up in the Carolinas have?
Yeah, well, you're 100% correct about the mountain music in North Carolina, but being in the Piedmont, we are in cotton mill country, and the cotton mills all along the Haw River in North Carolina, they spawned their own kind of micro communities with mill workers playing music as a hobby and as a pastime. And those traditions were passed down into like current day people that, ancestors that still live there, that still play the music and that sort of thing. And so there were a lot of like concert series and things like that based around the mill communities that I grew up going to. I also was really fortunate to get to see Joe Thompson he was the one that taught Rhiannon Giddens how to play fiddle from the Carolina Chocolate Drops, and he was just like a regular staple in my hometown, and so that was really, really, really special. So I would just say that like the cotton mill community of North Carolina and that history like really helped shape my exposure to music, I would say.
Yeah, I think what's really cool about North Carolina is that we have the mountains and the beach like in a day's drive from each other, which is just ridiculous. I mean, it's so cool. I guess Virginia is like that, but like I don't know. I guess I'm biased, but I feel like North Carolina is just the best. And I think I don't know. Just for me, I think I was always just drawn to music already, and then being around in a state where just the nature is so beautiful and there's so many opportunities to be outside and all that kind of stuff. I think it really kind of helped foster the music that I was already in there and I was already interested in. It gave me a lot of subject matter to write about.
And also, I'll just say Austin is from Wilmington, North Carolina. So there is like a history of like music that you can shag or like dance to. And Wilmington is a huge port city. And so there were a lot of, lots of different cultures coming through this one city. And so I definitely think like the beach music shag scene like is in there somewhere too.
Definitely.
Well, and I find that so interesting because Austin, you were playing in a band while you were at North Carolina State that was like what, pop rock, something like that. Is that right? Is that what you were doing when before all this?
Yeah, I mean, I was the kid that just wanted to play music. So wherever that opportunity came was good for me. And I had a friend in college that was writing these songs and keeping them to himself. And I listened to them and I was like, man, these are so good. And so I kind of helped encourage him to form a band around that. And, I wasn't in a creative position very much in the band. I was really more of a musician in the band and kind of helping manage it. But, I mean, yeah, I just wanted to play music, and that was the opportunity in college. But it was really fun. I learned a lot from being in that band. I remember we started selling out venues in Raleigh, and I was really naive in college, and I just thought that's how it worked, that you just become a band and start selling out venues.
It's so easy.
Yeah, it really, it was crazy. I thought it was. We had a song that got into an Adidas commercial in Europe, which was pretty insane, and a song that was used on some big YouTube channel for like a recap of the it was Maybelline that used it for their recap of New York Fashion Week. So it was like crazy things like that, and then we started playing music, and I was like, oh, actually, it's really hard.
Well, and Sarah, you kind of got like an early experience to some of this because you got up on stage, I think, at 18 with the iconic old time trio, the South Carolina Broadcasters. Next thing you know, you're got a banjo and you're playing with them, right? Like, I mean, is that kind
Yeah.
of how it all like just took off?
It is so insane to think back on that because that's now been almost 13 years ago. Yeah, I was 18 years
That's
old.
great. I didn't realize it was that young.
Yeah, I mean, it's just bananas what I did. It was the summer after my freshman year. It was like a week after freshman year was over or something. And I went, I, I was a big fan of the South Carolina Broadcasters and I was like obsessed with they had 3 albums out at the time and I was like obsessed with their music. And I was getting very into going to fiddlers conventions and that sort of thing. But I only played guitar and I sang. And I went to one of their shows at a barbecue restaurant and I was like there singing the words to the songs and hitting like these higher harmony parts. And I got like pulled aside afterwards and they were like, hey, we really are looking for like a new member. We need a banjo player. Can you make this date like 3 weeks later? Can you make this work and can you come sing with us and see if like it works out? And I did, and it clicked. And then I spent the next 3 years like juggling college and then playing in that band. And I look back on that and I'm just like shocked that I somehow managed that. Like I have no idea how, like, did I sleep? I do not know. I have no idea how I did it.
See, so easy, just so easy, you know?
Yeah, it's so easy. I mean, the fountain of youth, like it's just crazy.
When you're naive and don't know any better.
Oh yeah, and I actually mentioned that exact thing on a podcast interview we did earlier today. Like, it is a beautiful thing to just be unaware and to not know because then you have no concept of what your limits are, or what's appropriate to ask, or what's not cool, or anything. You just go with it, and the sky's the limit sometimes.
And now, correct me if I'm wrong. Is it true that you two met when Austin saw you performing, Sarah, and then pressed for a date?
Yes. So I was with that band. I was with the South Carolina Broadcasters, and we were on tour with, they were called Mandolin Orange at the time, but now Watch House. We were on an album. We were the opener for their album release tour, and Austin was there to see Watch House, our Mandolin Orange, and I was in the opening band.
Yep, I was there with a friend and I saw her come out and I thought I would really like to hang out with her sometime.
But he Facebook messaged me and I didn't see it for a long time. Or he like Facebook
It
messaged.
was a year before we went on our first date.
Yeah, it was a very long time and I didn't think, I don't know, I just kind of blew it off and I was like, this is weird. But we ended up going on a date and had a great time. So here we are.
Sliding into the DMs, old school style, right?
Yeah, that's the OG DM, this Facebook Messenger.
Well, and a few years later, it clearly worked out because y'all got married.
We did. Yeah,
That's
we
crazy.
did.
That's so crazy.
We just celebrated our 9-year wedding anniversary.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you. It's very wild. And when we do interviews like this and podcasts and stuff like that, like it gives us a chance to slow down and like talk about this stuff and think and just remember that like things work out and that we're doing something and we're really grateful.
Well, and doing things well, clearly 9 years happily married, being able to perform. What's that balance like, though, being partners both on and off stage?
Austin?
I think you...
No pressure, right?
Actually, I don't have an answer for this one. Go ahead, Sarah.
I mean, it is a huge struggle. Like, I'm not going to sugarcoat this. Like, it's a struggle to just be business partners, to be romantic partners, to own a home together, to have all these animals together, to have a mortgage together, like just all the things. There's very little separation, and we've had to learn over 9+ years of like how to have our own identities, to not just be Chatham Rabbits or not just be Sarah and Austin, that we have to be our own people sometimes, and that we also need to table the Chatham Rabbits conversation, and we need to just go on a date or a afternoon or whatever and talk about something other than the plans for our music and for our business. But it is very difficult. I'm not going to lie.
Austin, put you on the spot, no pressure.
Yeah,
It's great, right?
I agree 100%.
Yeah, but I think that it's all the more rewarding that we do, like when we do have big wins, it's like a win times a gajillion for us. But when it is a stressful moment or hard conversations, it's just like that much more painful, because like when you go to bed at night, like you can't, like the person you're having the tough conversations with is right there, like there's no like just leaving your boss at work and like blaring some music on the way home and like flipping him off in the mirror. Like you can't do that.
It's cool because if it works when it's at its best, you're seeing a part of your partner that most partners never get to see.
Yeah.
Right? Like you might have a partner and you're like, yeah, they're you know what they're like at work, but only through what you tell them. You don't ever really get to see it. And so when it's at its best, it's like we get to see that side of each other where it's like there's all this other respect, but there's also the respect of like you're my business partner and you're doing a really good job. And then, when it's at its worst, which luckily for us isn't very often, it's just another level of kind of accountability that you have with your partner. So it's like the stakes are higher, but we're just really lucky that it's gone well so far for the most part, especially business wise. Like we're really good business partners.
Well, and when did y'all decide to kind of give music and the group kind of full attention and kind of see where it could go? Because I mean, it's easy to say, yeah, everyone jumps in right away, but depending on what you've got going on, you might still have a day job because like you said, this industry is not always the easiest to truly be successful, like where it's the only thing you do. So when did y'all decide to kind of go full time and see where everything could go?
Yeah, we decided to go full time in the summer of 2018, and I don't necessarily recommend this to any aspiring full-time musicians, but we did quit our jobs and then pursue this full time. We did not have like a middle ground or part-time jobs per se. So yeah, it's this upcoming year will be 7 years of Chatham Rabbits, which is really, really hard to believe. Yeah, it's wild.
Yeah, it's like we don't recommend that necessarily, but at the same time, music is the hardest job or one of the hardest jobs to make a living at, to do music for a living. And so at the same time, it's also like, how could you do it if you didn't quit your job? So that's kind of the other side of the coin. It's like, if you can't devote 110% of everything you have into it, it's already really hard to make it. So like, it's both. Like some people, it's different for everybody. Like some people just don't have that option. We were really lucky that we worked corporate jobs for 4 years. We saved up money. We had already bought a house. We didn't have kids. Like we had a lot of things going for us. But I don't think we'd be sitting here today had we not quit our jobs to do it 100%. Because the next morning we woke up and we had 4 years of a normal job behind us. So it was like, we got up and started working it like it was our normal job, which I think a lot of people in this industry don't do.
Yeah, I think the sink or swim aspect of it was really motivating to us, that we were like, okay, we got to get our act together and do this. And that that was very motivating for us. And the previous like corporate America experience helped us be able to like set a semi-normal schedule and like pick up the phone and be really good at emails and stuff like that.
Yeah, because you guys were doing it all, right? You guys were booking the venue, working the venues, managing everything, right?
Yeah, we booked ourselves and managed. We have some help on the management side, and now we have a booking agent that like fully handles that. But for 3.5 years, I think I handled all of the booking, and like again, like going back to what you were saying about like when we were talking about being in the South Carolina broadcasters, I'm just like, how did we do it? But you don't know until you're just in it.
Sarah's really good at booking, by the way.
Well, I just really enjoy it. I love to talk to people, so it's fun
And
for
I
me.
assume you're very organized.
I am
No,
very charming.
surprisingly not.
I am very charming. I am not very organized. I fly by the seat of my pants and like I just like pray that I can get by, but I really like love connecting with people. So that's what makes
That's
it work.
what goes all the like. There's so many great bands out there. Like getting booked for something, like just having a connection or like an interpersonal relationship, that will get you more opportunity than anything. And so, yeah, Sarah's great at that.
That's fun.
Hey, there are good skills to have, and when you guys talk about you've been playing together, you're performing, the group came together. Where does Chatham Rabbits come from? Because you could have gone with your names or some form of that, but you went totally opposite.
Yeah, and that's something that people like. We get comments on our name a lot. It's a really actually a pretty cool story. So, I was talking about the mill communities in North Carolina, cotton mill communities. When Austin and I got married, we bought a very cute little tiny former cotton mill house on the Haw River in a little community called Bynum, North Carolina. It's in Chatham County. And back in the early 1900s, the Bynum Mill sponsored people in that worked for the mill that were musicians. They like sponsored a string band. And these people played string band music to like boost the morale of the mill workers and that sort of thing. And Austin and I heard about that, loved that story, and then found out that the original guitar player for the Chatham Rabbits string band of the Bynum Mill, that guitar player was the patriarch of the house that we bought. And so it just kind of all worked itself out and made sense to us. Yeah, it was one of those things where the name chose us and it just really worked.
Now, were there any other variations of the names that you had before then?
Well, we did try the new Chatham Rabbits for a while, and I think did we go by anything else?
We never went by anything else.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
No, we didn't really. And it's so interesting, like, yeah, I mean, when you're so young in it and you don't know what's going to happen and you pick a name and it's like, that's what's going to identify you for the long term. It's kind of wild to think about, but.
And it has nothing to do, like, well, and I should have said this earlier. Chatham County, the reason they like were called the Chatham Rabbit String Band in the first place is Chatham County used to have a ton of wild rabbits that people would come there and hunt. And that's really cool and all of that. But like people think to this day, like our fans, people will come up to us to the merch table and be like, oh my gosh, like I got you this rabbit themed poster or whatever. Like
you gotta be careful what you name your band. We keep joking that we should have named our band Cold Hard Cash. So
yeah.
People would give
Our
us
little bourbon and wine and whiskey and
yeah,
IPAs.
Exactly. Yeah, so it's really funny. We
cowboy
actually
boots size 10.
yes.
Well, but I mean, clearly it's working for you. Things are going well. Like I said at the top, you got a new album, Be Real With Me, that's coming out in February. What can folks expect? Because when you hear the title, this one, I feel like you hit the head. The name tells a lot with what people can probably expect.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I have never been prouder of a creative project that we have put out into the world. I am so happy with this record. Austin and our friend Saman co-produced it together, and we both wrote the songs, and it is such an album for people, I think, in their late 20s, early 30s, or people that are nostalgic for that era in their life, about looking in the mirror and getting real with themselves, coming to grips with who they actually are, reconciling past relationships, past hurts, that sort of thing. And it's just a very nitty-gritty, vulnerable album, and I'm just thrilled with it. It's music that I like listening to, and I know that's like so lame to want to listen to your own record, but I love it. I'm so happy about it.
Well, and I think too, I read where, this album showed a lot of, like, you guys have grown up, as a band. You were early 20s, now early 30s. Like, this kind of shows that growth, like you mature.
Mm-hmm.
I also think that we spent more time on this record than any other project. We recorded it over 2 years. I'd be curious, Sarah, maybe when did we go into the studio? I mean, it's been probably more than 2 years.
From writing to like pressing the record and everything, it was like a little over 2.5 years.
Yeah.
From the writing, yeah.
I think the first 3 records we cranked out really quickly, and this record we've been sitting on, and it's just been a much more slow, gradual process where we haven't spared any creative expense on this record, and that's just a major change for us.
Well, I was going to say, I mean, that 2-year process, I think I read where you sampled kind of organic tones, manipulated them into synth pads, percussion elements. Why did you kind of want to do this one maybe a little different then?
I think it just is a reflection of our growth as artists, mostly. And we had the last 2 records we had recorded mostly live, and there's some really cool things about that. You capture a moment, which I think is really special, but you also have to give up some things for a live record, which is like maybe Sarah and I were really moved by the vocal performance, but there was one thing that one of the bandmates did that we weren't thrilled with, but like if it's live, you kind of have to live with it. And this record we built up like a house, brick by brick, like a house, and just slowly but surely, and we threw a lot of paint at the wall, and we missed on some things, and so we took it back and deleted it. I mean, we just took our time with it, and that's a big change for us, and I think it comes out in the record. When you listen to it, I don't know, everything to me feels very thoughtful, and I know I'm biased because I was there when it was being thought of, but I do feel like it's way more thoughtful and less like, let's get a band together, we're going to play these songs really well. It's like some of these songs we didn't even have formulated until we got to the studio. One of the songs that kind of seems to be like everyone's favorite one, we brought the bare bones to the studio, just the lyrics and like kind of an idea of a melody, and we built it out there over time. And I just think that that's a major change, and honestly not the way a lot of people do it in our genre either.
Well, it works because I've gotten a little early listen to the album, and it's fantastic, and you really do kind of bear a little bit of yourselves on that, and what's it like to share those things, like, I mean, whether it's something good or bad in your life. Childhood Friends, you guys just released that, and it's out, like things like that. Like, is it kind of weird to write about that, or is it just cathartic and good as well?
I think it feels really natural right now, I think it would have felt really weird a couple years ago, but it feels like this is the time and place to put this out there in the world. And it's coincided, I think a lot of artists are this way, but for us, like, every record is a timestamp on our own life and our own growing up and getting more mature and everything. And I don't think that 30 years old is old at all. I think it's still very, very young. But for me, it felt just like a chapter turn of like being in your 20s is just like the last segment of just pure youth. Like, you don't know what's going to happen. You don't really care that much what's going to happen. Like, trying to get by. You're still like weaning yourself off of living at home even for the or whatever. And you turn 30 and it's like, okay, from here on out, I am fully responsible for myself. Like our family, our life.
I gotta get my act together, basically.
Like we are no longer can lean on anyone else. And that feeling, like, I don't think it fully went away for me until I turned 30, and then I just realized, I don't know. And so this record coming out, it feels like it's a reflection of who we are in this new chapter. And somebody today was telling us that, like, I'm trying to think how they worded it. Something like, this is a really cool record because it's like a lot of musicians release the midlife crisis record, but they never released the Looking in the Mirror record before the midlife crisis. And I was like, wow, that's really cool. Maybe the Mirror record will prevent the midlife crisis record. I don't know, but
yeah, it's kind of like bands release the record of like the going on the road and like making their way in the world, and then the midlife crisis. This is the one that comes in between that, or that's kind of what we're thinking.
That's really good. We should remember that.
Yeah, there you go.
That's a good.
I like it. Or it could be a T-shirt. Who knows? And but I love that too because you're being vulnerable. You're showing things. You make me feel old at 37. But but I love the record. Facing 29, Childhood Friends, Matador's fantastic. What is y'all's like writing process and creative process like? Do y'all write together, separate, bring things together? Like, because I know you guys are working. Clearly this is a you all's project. Like it's something y'all co-write and work together on. So how does that work for y'all?
It's all over the map. Really.
Yeah, it's all over the map. But I would say like primarily, if I was gonna just give a basic statement about it, I would say that we mostly write our own songs, and then when they're like 90% done, bring them to the other person and share for melody ideas or like any part of it. Like we ask for help, and but we try to like get it to a point. We get the project or the song to a point where it's ready to share, I would say.
Sarah and I are also really lucky, just like in business. We're also very, very different with songwriting. We have different strengths. Sarah's strength is definitely in the lyrics, and I think my strength is definitely in the melody. And taking on this co-producer role, I think really solidified that. Like, even when Sarah had a melody for some of these songs, the production aspect of it, I don't think I fully appreciated it until I co-produced this record. Like, before that, our producer is like, he's technically not the songwriter, but like a producer is also like part of the song. Like
they have a lot of input. Yeah.
I mean, every single song on here was written by me, Sarah, and Saman. If you really think about they would not have landed in the same way by any means without those three components or with those three people that are on this record. And so I think it's cool. Like, I'm hoping that as we advance as artists that we get more dialed in with how we make the best music. And I think what it's kind of looking like from right now is like, for me, there's probably going to be a couple songs on the record that just come out of nowhere when I least expect it. Like that song, Did I Really Know Him, on the record. I wrote it in 15 minutes out of nowhere. Like, it just is crazy. Facing 29 was pretty similar. But Sarah's way more methodical and long-winded,
yeah.
Long process. Like, a song can take a year or more, or a long
thoughtful.
time. She's really thoughtful.
Thank you, Jonathan. Thank you.
She's really thoughtful, and she comes to the table with that, and I think ultimately, like, she really shines in that department, and then bringing that to me to, like, refine with melody and then ultimately work on the production. Like, that's where our best material comes from. And so I'm looking forward to leaning into that more this next record.
Well, and you're about to go on tour with this album when it drops. You're going to hit a lot of different places, a lot of different days, coming through my now hometown of Lexington at the Burl in March. What's it like hitting the road for y'all? Like, what's your favorite part about that?
Yeah. So, well, I hope we get to meet you in person in Lexington. We're so excited. We've never played in Lexington. Actually, we've never had a Chatham Rabbit show in Kentucky
You got to
ever.
bring all your childhood
So,
friends.
yeah, all your childhood friends. So we're so
No pressure.
excited. Yeah, no pressure. And I don't know if we're really supposed to say this or not, but we're going to be at Bourbon and Beyond this year, which is going to be exciting. Um, but touring as Chatham Rabbits is really fun because our sound engineer slash tour manager is like family to us, and his name is Nick, and he's just really important to our success and our life and our
We're so
stability.
lucky to have him.
Yeah, so lucky to have him. So lucky to have the rest of the band. That when we bring a backing band with us, they're just all lovely bunch of dudes. And then the other fun thing is that we have our touring vehicle is the former hot air balloon bus for Wells Fargo Bank. It was used to like take the Stagecoach hot air balloon for Wells Fargo from for like 20 years. It housed that balloon, and then we bought it a couple of years ago.
It's a perfect in between a van and a bus.
Yeah. So it's really fun to tour in that, and we sleep in it. We hang out in it. It's like our mobile green room, and we just have a lot of fun. And we try to do things on the road that are like, you know, based on the place we're in. Like when we've traveled through Kentucky, we've gone to Buffalo Trace 2 times now. And we try to do things that are related to the place where we're playing.
Well, when you hit Lexington, the borough is right next to its own brewery, and then right across the street is literally a brewery, a distillery, a tasting room, and a cidery. So plenty to check out in like 2 seconds. So you'll be great, great there.
I love Kentucky. I really do.
Yeah, we're so excited.
Well, and you talk about being able to travel, but what's it like for y'all up on stage? Because I know that's a chance you get to share not only the songs, but maybe the story behind the songs. I know, I believe one of them you talk about, Sarah, your great aunt who loved squirrel stew and catching things like that. What's it like to be on stage and kind of share those little anecdotes and just have fun?
Um, I just love it, and that's what I love about going to see my favorite artists, you know, Brandy Carlisle, Taylor Swift. Like these women share little tidbits about their lives, and I don't know, that's what I enjoy about being in the audience at their shows, so I try to do it for our audience as well.
Yeah, I mean, I would say for me, being on stage was the hardest part for a long time. Like, I love music. I love making music. I didn't love performing at first. And Sarah and I decided to kind of give up on the notion of, like, being these cool musicians and, like, trying to put on a show and just start being ourselves. And our shows are kind of goofy, and we talk a lot, and
We don't plan any dialogue. Like it's
Yeah.
all
But we really break the third wall. Like it's a conversation with the audience, and we're building a community with these people. And to me, that's really special and unique with our shows compared to a lot of other people. And yeah, it's what's comfortable to us and what we found that our fans really love as well.
Well, and correct me if I'm wrong. You're both to some degree, one maybe more than another, introverts, correct? And you're doing something that's very public facing.
Sarah
I don't
has not
know.
an introverted bone in her body, but me.
But
Yeah,
you,
Austin, definitely. Yeah.
Yep.
It's really funny, like we can tell like when we get home from tour, a lot of times like I just like want to keep hanging out and with our bandmates, and or like I just want to keep the party going, and Austin is like, okay, we're done. So it really shows like the introvert extrovert thing. And yeah, I don't know, I have a lot of respect for Austin that he can do this while having the personality of wanting like some, I don't know, solitude.
Yeah, I would say I'm an extroverted introvert.
There you
Like, I
go.
do love people and it gives
Yeah.
me energy, but I do like there's a time when I hit the ceiling and I'm like, I cannot do it anymore. And when that happens, it's like time to watch 8 hours of TV, you know?
Well, that's why you have the bus. You can just hang out and be by yourself. And as I always start the show off with what's your favorite drink, I like to get toward the end. This is one of my favorite questions because I feel like the answers are always different, and sometimes it takes the artist by surprise, or they're very trying hard to think of it. But what's your favorite song to perform these days of yours? Is it any? I'm guessing some of the new stuff, but I mean, what's your favorite song to perform on stage?
Okay, we did this earlier. How would you feel about us answering for each other?
Oh,
I'm gonna say what.
I
I'm
love it.
No, not necessarily what I think your favorite song is to perform.
okay.
How about what my favorite song of yours is to perform, and then you say what your favorite song of mine is to perform. That's a cool one.
Okay, like an Austin written song?
Yeah, and a Sarah written song.
Okay.
Okay, my favorite song of Sarah's to perform is one from the new record called One Little Orange. It is one of the most well-written songs I think she's ever written. And it gets me emotionally, like, a lot of the time, and it's just a really special song, and I, like, feel respect for her songwriting, and, like, kind of am in awe of it every time we perform it.
That is so nice.
All right,
I can
you're
send
up.
you this clip so you will always have.
You're up. It better be good.
Yeah, can you please, like, make sure I keep this? Okay.
I'm waiting.
My favorite song to perform with you is probably Did I Really Know Him, which is the song Austin was talking about how he wrote in 15 minutes. Because it's a very emotional song. It's a song about Austin's the neighbor that grew up beside of Austin and his family, like your entire childhood. Just 2 years ago, the patriarch of this family, he died by suicide, and it was really, really, really shocking to everybody. And the song is just about letting people in, being vulnerable, and like letting yourself be known by yourself and by others. And I love it because I don't sing on the verses. I only sing on the chorus, and sometimes I play guitar on it. And so I just get to like kind of sit back and watch Austin sing it. And I think that it's a really, I think it's a really important message for men. I mean, not to be like so gender specific, but I think that a lot of times men don't get the permission to be vulnerable like that, and that song lends itself to that, which I think is really cool.
Yeah, you definitely you're being real with everyone on this album, and I think that's why I love it. And now I'm gonna throw it back to you because you kind of you picked one that you love of each other, but is there a song that you all love that's just doesn't matter who wrote it, that you enjoy performing because you get to maybe do something a little different with it when you're on, record versus stage can always be a little different, or you have a little fun, or maybe it's a song that isn't even yours that you like to perform.
Do you know what you're gonna say?
Go ahead.
Okay, I'm gonna say right now the song that I have the most fun performing is our tune "Collateral Damage" that's also on this new record, because I wrote it about wanting to be a mom one day, but also wanting the freedom and I don't know, the ability to still tour and make a living. And something that I spend a lot of time thinking about are my bodily autonomy, my rights as a woman. And I think that this song is kind of an interesting way to bridge that gap and like make people think about what it means to be a woman who wants to be a mother in this day and age. And I like being able to like toe that line on stage a little bit.
I like it.
Oh,
Austin?
man. One song that we have been playing that is not ours that's been really cool to end a lot of shows is Blowing in the Wind. And, that's just such a classic, and it's really fun to do it our own way. And we did have this one experience where we were playing in Bristol, at Bristol Rhythm and Roots, which is a huge festival. And for some reason, there was these protesters there with megaphones, and they weren't protesting our set. They were just kind of like protesting, you know.
Just because they were bored.
Yeah,
I
they were
guess.
bored, and there, you know, a lot of hateful signs.
It was very like Westboro Baptist Church vibes.
And they were right outside of our set with megaphones, and it was really loud. And they started like maybe halfway through our set, and we kind of just pivoted everything because the audience was sort of booing them, and like the audience really got on our side. But we started playing "Blowing in the Wind" because it's just such a unifying song, you know, so connective. And the protesters left, and the crowd went nuts and was singing it with us, and like it was just such a special moment. And so that's been a really fun one to sing on stage. It's just cool when you find a song that's just timeless. You know what I mean? It's like no matter what's going on in the world, that song, it's so simple and just so elegant and amazing.
Well, and I have a feeling a few folks will find a lot of songs that connect with them on Be Real With Me. And, you know, like I said, the album's coming out in February. You're going on tour around then as well, February, March. What else can folks expect from you in 2025? You know, I mean, you know, we're closing out the year of 2024. We're about to hit Christmas, New Year's. What can folks expect from you, though, in the new year?
A ton of touring.
A ton of touring, yeah, a lot of shows, and something that I am so excited about doing again in 2025. This past year was like our inaugural year of it, but we did a Chatham Rabbits kids summer camp on our farm for kids of, you know, some of our fans. They came out and learned about songwriting and animals and North Carolina history, and it was so much fun. So I'm planning to do 2 weeks of it again this upcoming summer, and that's going to be super fun. But honestly, like Austin said, the main thing is you will find us all across the country this upcoming year. We hope to see y'all.
Well, like I said, they'll enjoy a great album, Be Real With Me, out in February. And Sarah, Austin, thank you for having a little drink with me and sharing a lot about yourselves.
Absolutely.
I truly appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Absolutely.
Jonathan.
Find more from Hops and Spirits at hopspirits.com.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.